So this is the first of four snippets that we'll have that will run between 1998 and 2007, 2008. I hope everyone is doing okay, staying safe. So this first snip is going to look at the Clinton impeachment scandal, which is in fact a multi-year process investigating a variety of ethical improprieties overseen by this man, Kenneth Starr, who was a former judge, a former federal judge, fairly conservative Republican, who had, if H.W. Bush had been elected in 1992, probably would have been a Supreme Court nominee in a second Bush term, and who was a deeply religious man who seems to have concluded that, quite apart from everything else, Clinton was morally unfit for the presidency. And so Starr's inquiry, remember last week we looked at these early scandals, Whitewater, and there was a travel office scandal, various Arkansas scandals, in which Clinton might have done something wrong, but there never was any hard evidence. The Starr investigation did lead to Hillary Clinton being called before the grand jury. Starr had wanted billing records from Hillary's time when she was a very high-profile lawyer in Arkansas. She said that she couldn't find them. Then they did find them in a room in the White House, which kind of raised red flags. And again, so it's sort of critical to understand how Starr approached this, and that the Starr people believed that Clinton was guilty, believed that he was hiding things. And then into his lap fell this allegation from Paula Jones, the woman here in the middle, who was a low-level Arkansas worker who alleged that she had been sexually harassed by then Governor Bill Clinton. And I think most people now acknowledge that Jones's allegation was likely true. The allegation was that she was a secretary, that Clinton had seen her at some state conference, had arranged for her to be brought to his hotel room, had propositioned her rather forcefully. She said no, and she left. And she then sues him under a sexual harassment law that he actually had signed. That critically, and her lawyers here are conservative activist lawyers. This is the reason they took the case. One of the changes in the law was in sexual harassment lawsuits. If you're a woman, you file an allegation against your boss, you can ask the boss in depositions about past, even consensual affairs in the workplace, with the goal of establishing a pattern. If you have a boss that's constantly sleeping with women, or female bosses constantly sleeping with subordinates as well, that this might create a hostile atmosphere. For conservative lawyers, though, the ideal here was to get Clinton, who everyone knew had not been faithful to his wife, under oath, where he'd have to talk about his affairs. And eventually it came to the attention of the Jones lawyers, and through the Jones lawyers, Starr's team, that Clinton had had an affair with a White House intern named Monica Lewinsky, and that Lewinsky in turn had told a friend, a woman who just recently passed away, Linda Tripp, about this affair. And Tripp, who despised the Clintons and was well connected in conservative circles herself, decided to surreptitiously tape Lewinsky's long conversations about her engagements with the president, shared that information with Starr. Why does any of this matter? Critically, the Clinton team had, and I think virtually everyone now acknowledges this is what happened, encouraged Lewinsky to lie to the Starr grand jury that asked her about whether they had an affair. Encouraged her to lie to the Jones lawyers who asked her about whether they had had an affair. So this is, at least on paper, obstruction of justice, encouraging someone else to lie under oath. Now, in any environment, this would have been a major scandal, but in the new media environment of the 1990s, it takes off. There are two critical aspects to this element of the Clinton story. The first is the creation of Fox News. This is Roger Ailes, former very high-ranking Republican political operative who founds Fox in the 1990s. And the idea behind Fox is this belief, which is not at all an unreasonable one, that the mainstream media is not an ideologically diverse body. It tends to slant some to the left, and in some cases quite substantially to the left, and so that there was a market for conservatives who wanted a kind of right slanting news. And what Ailes recognized very sharply in this regard is that you could be an incredibly profitable cable news network without having a huge slice of the electorate. As long as 5% of the electorate was watching Fox News, Fox News as a cable station would make tons of money. So Fox is created with this right slanting, very anti-Clinton ideological bent. At the same time, the mid '90s is the beginnings of the internet era, and in terms of internet publications, the beginnings of the blog era. I mean, we've largely, I think, moved past blogs and sort of moved to Twitter. One of the last prominent blog-like sites, although it was never really quite a blog, was the Drudge Report, headed by this, again, right-leaning activist, Matt Drudge. Which was a news aggregator, but with tons of followers. So if you're a conservative in the 1990s, you go to the Drudge Report, you kind of get your news in a right-leaning slant. But Drudge is also really well connected in the media world as a whole. If you're at ABC or CBS, Drudge gets you lots of links, and so there's a willingness to kind of feed stories to Drudge. And Drudge breaks the story that Newsweek, the national news magazine, had been reporting on the Lewinsky scandal, but the editors had killed the story. So suddenly this becomes national news, and the question is what the administration is going to do. Now, one option for Clinton would have been to have acknowledged the affair immediately, but he concludes this would be too risky, and instead this is how he responds.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
It is what it is. Meanwhile, the First Lady appeared on NBC News today and made the argument that not only were these allegations false, but they were part of a broader right-wing narrative to take down her husband. This is a very famous Hillary interview.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
If Starr had been a competent prosecutor, Starr immediately would have granted Lewinsky immunity. Lewinsky would have testified, and it's possible that Clinton would have been forced to resign. But Starr was not a competent prosecutor. He waits several months with contentious relations with Lewinsky's lawyer. Medical malpractice, and the lawyer was as incompetent as Starr. And the Clinton narrative largely takes hold, which is that Starr's investigation is excessive. And there's more than a kernel of truth to this. I mean, the core Clinton argument was, look, even if I had an affair with Lewinsky, you don't want a situation where federal prosecutors are running around saying you committed perjury if you lied about an affair. Everyone lies about having an affair. It's the nature of having an affair. Ultimately, what resolves the truth of this is that Lewinsky had kept a souvenir of one of her exchanges with Clinton, this blue dress, which has Clinton's DNA on it. That proves that they in fact did have some kind of sexual relations. Starr produces a lengthy report that he turns over to the House, urging impeachment. which winds up backfiring. The report goes into tremendous detail about Clinton's sexual escapades, which again is not relevant to the case. All Starr needed was to say that Clinton lied. Clinton encouraged Lewinsky to lie. Instead, he seems to be, kind of gratuitously going after the president, and in particular, gratuitously going after Hillary. He would recount, a White House exchange between Bill Clinton and Monica, and then say where Hillary was at the time. There seemed to be a desire to humiliate Hillary with the report, and there was a strong backlash against the report in a way that Republicans did not expect. And in a significant surprise, in the 1998 midterm elections, the Democrats actually gained a few seats. The seats in light blue that you can see on this map are House seats that were gained by the Democrats. And the custom since the Roosevelt era is that in the sixth year of a presidency, the party in power almost always loses House seats because the people are kind of tired of the person in office. So there's a real sense here that Starr and House Republicans who were pushing forward with impeachment had overreached. In the aftermath of the election, the House Speaker Newt Gingrich announces that he's going to resign. If he had not, he probably would have been unseated. But incredibly, his his successor, Dennis Hastert, under heavy pressure from conservatives in the caucus, decides to move forward with the impeachment process. It goes to the Senate. There is a trial presided over by the Chief Justice, William Rehnquist, who surprises everyone on the first day of the trial by showing up in this robe with the gold stripes on the side. No one knows what he was doing with this. But the result is foreordained. And on the two charges that Clinton faced, not only did the Senate not return a 2/3 verdict of guilty, but the House leaders, even though the Senate was under Republican control, were unable to get a majority to vote in favor of guilty on either allegation. So this was a scandal that consumed many years in Clinton's presidency, but ultimately came to nothing. So that's our first snippet for this week, and the next snippet's going to look at some of the political effects of this approach.